Hi folks, in today's video I'll be talking about why I don't build optimal characters. Okay, so what do I mean by optimal character? What I mean by that is I don't focus on building the best warlock, the best cleric, the best witch, whatever character it is, class that it is that I'm playing. I'm not focused on trying to find the mechanics and, to have the kind of best combo of mechanics to have the best thing. That's just not fun for me. If it is for you, okay, cool, great. But I don't particularly like it, and I think there can be some issues with it. So first of all, I don't build optimal characters because when I'm creating a character, the first thing that I do is I come up with a concept. Now, sometimes this concept can be inspired by a mechanic. That's what happened with Nyx, who was a Shadowrun character that I came up with. I came up with the idea after reading about the Changeling in Shadowrun. But most of the time, I come up with a general concept and then I go through the rule book and I find the mechanics to bring that character to life. And sometimes that means picking mechanics that don't always end up creating the best mechanical character, that maybe, oh, I should have picked this ability instead of this ability because this ability pairs better with the first, the spells that I've chosen or whatever it is. But for me, it's I'm picking characteristics, I'm picking abilities, I'm picking spells that tell the story of this character. I put a lot more emphasis on the story than on the mechanics. Now, that's not to say I don't always pick mechanics that are purely story. Sometimes when I'm leveling up, I do pick the abilities that are mechanically better because it works for story, or it doesn't really have to do with story, and I think it's going to be cool. But most of the time when I'm creating a character and leveling them up, I'm looking at story first. The story of the character, the story of the campaign. The second reason that I don't build optimal characters is I enjoy flaws. I enjoy playing flawed characters. I don't want to build the perfect warlock because that's kind of boring. If you look, flaws allow for opportunities for conflict and interesting story moments. It also, if you're building an optimal character that's always going to succeed at something, that's kind of boring. I like having characters that, yes, I do want my characters to succeed, but I like that element of, I'm not sure if this is always going to work, because it makes that payoff when it does work so much better, as well as I enjoy the times when things don't work. There have been some great story moments in campaigns that came about from critical failures or just failures or bad choices, that lead to really interesting story moments, character, growth, and all of that. And those also tend to be the moments in campaigns that I've noticed people talk about more because they're fun. It's fun because you're playing this character, there's this, you can take these risks that maybe you wouldn't take in your real life. And if it doesn't go well, it's a character. I mean, worst case scenario, your character dies, and while that's really sad, you're still here and okay, and you can roll up another character, or maybe resurrect that character. But most of the time, it will just complicate things, and complications are fun. I also really enjoy the creative problem solving that happens with tabletop RPGs. And so when you have characters that you're more inclined to use different abilities, or if you're working with the other characters in your group to come up with a really complicated plan, and that I'll do this and then you'll do that, and then also when that plan kind of it inevitably doesn't always go exactly right, having to figure out things on the fly. I really enjoy that element, and I think that's something that oftentimes when people are focused on optimizing and or min-maxing, you end up creating characters that have, well, I'm going to do these actions every time we're in combat because it does the most damage. And that becomes repetitive and that becomes boring. And especially if your game master is not varying the kinds of combat encounters you're in, you're going to end up feeling like, yeah, every encounter just is the same. I run up and bash this thing, and then it dies. Whereas if you're more focused on, I want to come up with a cool, interesting, different approach, different problem solving, than maybe the straightforward approach of just running up and bashing something or trying to do the most damage, you're going to have more fun with those combat encounters because they're going to be varied. And as a game master, I love when my players come up with solutions to encounters that I did not anticipate. That's one of the things that I love about tabletop RPGs. And like, can't really find that type of interaction anywhere else. Sometimes players, both actual players and game masters who are focused on optimizing, can approach tabletop role-playing games with the mindset of they want to win D&D, or they want to win Pathfinder or Starfinder, Shadowrun, whatever game it is that they're playing, and by doing the optimization, that's kind of their approach to winning. I personally don't really see a tabletop role-playing games as winnable. For me, winning a tabletop role-playing game is I sat around the table with a bunch of interesting people and we had a really good time and yay, I won. Even if we failed and had a TPK, if we all were having a great time and enjoyed the experience, that's winning for me. And with that kind of wanting to win, I think there can be a lot of times where those players, those individuals tend to focus a lot more on themselves. So ways to kind of maybe help branch it out is encouraging them to come up with ways to work with other players, to encourage them to maybe, hey, do the assist. And sometimes that can actually lead to doing more damage or a better encounter than if you're focused solely on how much damage can my character do. But if I can set something up and allow this other character, like especially if that other character has an ability that this monster is weak to, if I can set them up that they're definitely going to hit, that might do a lot more damage. And that's going to also lead to some more interesting encounters and keep it from being so repetitive and so boring. Also, as a game master, if you do have people at your table who do want to optimize or min-max, I think it's important to vary your combat encounters, because it is going to force them to approach things more creatively, to not just have the same set of actions that they do over and over and over. For me, if you're focused on building an optimal character, you're probably going to run into less variety with the kinds of characters that you make because you're going to be focused so much on the mechanics that you're not going to be focused on the personality and the telling different kinds of stories. And I think that's something that we're seeing a lot as a lot of tabletop role-playing systems are moving towards facilitating a wider variety of stories to be told. It means that there's kind of less options, I guess, for optimizing, or you have all of these options, but if you're focused just on mechanics, yeah, it's going to seem like, well, I only have one choice. But you've made that choice to focus on mechanics and optimizing rather than making the choice to focus on telling a different story. So that's on you more than it's on the system. So while this video has been a topic that I've kind of wanted to touch on for a while, it's also been inspired by another video that's in the tabletop YouTube community, and specifically about Pathfinder. And one of the things that I want to point out with Pathfinder is that the core rulebook gives you tons of options to create all of these different kinds of characters, and that's something that I love. I talked about it in my Pathfinder review. I think that's something that Paizo has been doing great. They've always had a little bit of a leg up on some other companies as far as like diversity and customization and options, sometimes to the point that it's a bit mind-boggling. But I really appreciate that. I think it allows for a lot more variety of characters within the mechanics that are provided. So you do have tons of choices when it comes to building your character. You can really go through and build the character that you want to build, even if it's not optimal. Build the character that you're going to have optimal fun with. So what are your thoughts on optimal character builds, min-maxing? I'd love to hear them down in the comments below. And as always, please just be respectful if you disagree. We can have a conversation, just, don't be a jerk. A big thanks to our patrons, especially Arvi. If you want to support our channel, you can head over to our Patreon page and check out the perks of being a patron. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe because we make videos here every week all about tabletop RPGs and our other geeky interests. You can follow us on our social media where you can see kind of our day-to-day thoughts and check out like when we're in streamed games and stuff like that. That's the best place to kind of stay up to date. All right, I'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye! And since people keep asking, my earrings and necklace are from Mage Studio Dice. I'll put a link in the description.